What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. Scott, I don't know if you feel that in the air. Yeah, I think it's not the Seattle air. It's not that humid, damp Seattle air. It's not the pot smoke and the grunge music, which I believe I offended the city of Seattle back in like 2013 or something. Throwback to the Bronx Pinstripes blog that crashed our website. But what is in the air is concern, my friend. How's it going this morning?
It's going all right. Yeah, there's concern. There's no doubt concern. I don't appreciate it being in Seattle when it really manifests to the top or it comes to the top here. First of all, the whole Jeter doc has been resurfacing some painful memories about Seattle and very much reinforcing the reason why I don't like that team or that franchise. And now the Yankees just lost the series to them and just not playing well. The offense is sputtering big time. And the pitching is, for the most part, okay. But Boone's back to being Boone, doing things that are driving me nuts. And the offense, again, still hasn't picked it up. Thankfully, Rizzo's back. But, what do you expect from him after being out for as long as he is and popping back in? He's not going to be a knight in shining armor. Not yet. He's got to get his feet underneath him. But yeah, man, this is concerning. The team is not playing well at all.
Not playing well against competition you could likely face in October. Not playing well in games that are close and late situations. And to go back to your Boone take from last episode, you were getting, I don't know if you saw the Instagram comments and stuff. You were getting some crap for your take there, but I think a situation that really highlights the fact is Boone's decision on Wednesday afternoon to go to Abreu in a high leverage spot in the seventh inning and not go to some other pitchers that were supposedly available. Efros and Wandy Peralta, two guys he mentioned were available after the game because we know Chapman and Clay Holmes were not available. He went to Abreu, who has been awful with inherited runners. 6 of 9 inherited runners have scored off of Abreu this year. And that's 67%. The league average is 32%. So I, fine, say small sample size, but when it's that bad, maybe try and do something else. You've got Suarez and Santana coming up. I just think Efros is the play there. I know Boone was saying, Efros was going to be my closer, but that flies in the face of some other things that they've said where, we're going to use Clay Holmes in high leverage spots, and we're not going to have a dedicated closer. We're gonna pick our spots with our high leverage arms to squash the game when you have the opportunity. That was the moment in the seventh inning right there, and he went to Abreu and he gave up the home run to Santana, and that was it. Yeah, fine. Blame the umpire for maybe missing a call on Haniger. Blame whoever you want, but I'm blaming Boone for that decision because that's a bad call to bring in Abreu there.
How many teams has Abreu been on this year? And I'm not talking about a trade deadline person. 3 teams. He's been on 3 teams. The Royals released him. The Texas Rangers released him. And now he's with the Yankees, who he was not, also part of. This is a guy that should not be, I know he's pitched much better with the Yankees than he has all year. There's no doubt he has. But when you have a high leverage situation like that, if you're deeming X person as your closer before the game, this is going back to some like Joe Girardi binder shit. Like, what are we doing? You need to put your best pitcher out there. None of these guys are a closer. You can't deem somebody as a closer until you get to that situation. How about we get to that situation where a game can be closed and then you look at who's out there or try to get, at least an inning closer to it. But for him to even use that as the excuse afterwards is what's driving me nuts too. It's like, that was the mindset. The mindset is I didn't use the best guy available at that moment because I'm going to use him as my closer. That assumes that we're getting to that inning, and that assumes that the Yankees have a lead in the ninth inning to use your best pitcher at that point, and that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. What if you bring Efros in the seventh inning and he gets out of that jam? And I understand they probably didn't want to go to Wandy Peralta because Santana actually is a much better hitter from the right side. He's got an 802 OPS as a right-handed batter. So you want to keep him on the left side. Fine. Bring in Efros, that's going to be a good, favorable matchup. And then you get out of that inning. Who knows? Maybe the Yankees tack on a run or two, and it's lower leverage for Abreu in the 8th or the 9th inning. There's just too many things, too many variables. When we're talking about, like you said, we're talking about none of these guys are deemed closers. This is your bullpen available today. Just try and fit the puzzle pieces in the right spots for that day, and then get to the next day.
The other thing you're looking at is Wandy Peralta is a guy that is trusted. Would you agree with that? He's also a guy that
much more than Abreu.
He's also a guy that can go a little bit more than an inning. Like he's a guy that is trusted, that can get out of jams. Like I absolutely would have the confidence to put him in that spot in a quote closer spot if needed. It's not like he can't do that. You've seen Efros for 2 weeks. You have more confidence in him doing that than you do Wandy Peralta. It just doesn't add up to me. And the problem is it's actually not even so much about the individual and looking at who can do what in a given moment. It's the fact that the pre-made plan, the plan going into it was this guy's not going to be available until the 9th inning when we have a lead. And that makes no damn sense because he's not your guy in the back end. He's not Aroldis Chapman. He's not Clay Holmes. He's not one of those guys that you could in the back there. So why are you designating someone for a particular situation when that situation may not even happen? It doesn't make any sense.
Boone's comments after the game also call some other things into question. He did not mention Lucas Lickey's name. Lucas Lickey has not pitched since August 2nd at home against the Mariners. So if you're not pitching for 9 days, what's the point of having him on the roster? Why is he traveling with the team if he's going to go 9 days without pitching? He also didn't mention Johnny Loizaga, who I understand did pitch recently, but if he's not going to be trusted in a situation, and he's deemed unavailable for medium to high leverage spots, then like why is Marinaccio pitching in Scranton? Why not have Loizaga figuring his crap out in Scranton and have Marinaccio, who's been a real contributor to this bullpen this year, pitching in high leverage spots? It just doesn't add up.
It doesn't. Loizaga does have an option, so that situation is available. Marinaccio, the way that he's been pitching, he has been used and trusted in high leverage situations, and he's pitched well throughout the year. So it does not make sense. That's a Cashman thing, and why he's down, and why why the other. But if we're not using Lickey, I don't get why Lickey hasn't pitched. If Lickey's not pitching since August 2nd, what are we doing? Like, okay, he's there. He should be available. He's a guy that you've seen for multiple years now. You know who he is. You should be able to have him come in and be used in some situations, but not available and just holding another guy back because you have a small bullpen for whatever reason. It's just not adding up, man. And it does culminate from what I was talking about on the last episode. Is these little Booneisms now are getting magnified. They're getting magnified, and this is what happens when a team is struggling. When everything is going well, it's gravy, you know. Hey, he'll get it next time. He'll get it the next day. He's just giving him a leash. All of the things that are there for us to throw support behind our skipper. But when you get a struggling team against the competition that is you're very possibly going to be seeing in the playoffs, making some bonehead decisions or making some of these nonsensical moves that just you're looking for the reason why and just some decent reasoning behind it. Even if it doesn't work, give me some decent reasoning behind it, and that's where I'm starting to see more and more of it, and it's driving me crazy.
I tweeted the other day, it's hard to believe this team was once on a 120 win pace because of how bad they've played over this recent stretch. And someone commented, in the first 2 months of the season, they found ways to win games, and right now they're finding ways to lose games, and that's no more evident than the last 2 losses. We just highlighted how they found a way to lose the Wednesday game by some bad decisions by their manager. And then the night before, they found ways to completely run themselves out of scoring chances on the base paths. So they just found a way to lose that 13-inning game on Tuesday night.
The base running on that given day, that was, first of all, appreciate the 13-inning West Coast start. Thanks, guys, for everybody on the East Coast. That was that ruined our lives for a couple days. Yeah, there were definitely some bonehead moves there. There was also, you see the aggressiveness behind bonehead moves that didn't work out. The whole with IKF trying to get to second base, and getting tossed there. Man, I know you hate the base running thing, and you have a big problem with some of the decisions that are made on the base path and why executing. And I'm on the other side of it, where I like them pushing the envelope, but it absolutely rears its ugly head when it doesn't work. When it doesn't work and you have aggressive base running and you're getting thrown out on a more consistent basis, then it looks very bad. So if you're not executing while being aggressive, it looks sloppy and it just looks like piss poor baseball and just like, little league shit. But the other side of it is when you are being aggressive, pushing the limits, that's when you can make things happen. So I'm still on the fence. I'm not killing the team for being aggressive on the base paths. To what Boone mentioned in the, I think, post game, he's like, we want to be aggressive. We just gotta be smarter. Well, that's instinctual. When you're being aggressive, you're relying on the instincts of your base runners at that point. So being smart is, I don't know how much you could kill a guy. He's reading a situation and he's reading what he sees in front of him, and he's got the green light. So don't give him the green light if you don't want him to make those decisions.
Let me ask you a question. What do you consider to be aggressive base running? Because the Yankees have been praised this year for their quote unquote aggressive base running. How do you define that?
Not being conservative, being, taking some chances, taking risks. I think aggressive base running is at the end of the day risky. It's a risky way to play baseball. But what it does is it forces the defense to make plays where they wouldn't have to. So it puts them in situations where they also have to react and make quick plays and execute quickly. So if you're being aggressive, you're forcing the defense into also an uncomfortable situation, which, and a lot of times good things can happen, or you're catching them sleeping, or you're taking advantage of missteps. So that's what I deem aggressive. I think you're taking additional risk.
And that can come in the form of stolen bases or trying to advance an extra base on a hit ball, trying to score from first on a double, those sorts of things, right?
Of course. And even the IKF play, like you get a guy in the rundown on third base and he's trying to get to the second base, so he's in scoring position. The thought there is right. I like the thought there. The execution was bad. The runner, I think it was Trevino, got caught and he got tagged way too fast, and IKF was hung out to dry on that one. So it's, again, reading the situation where there's a lot of things happening in that moment, and if you don't read it correctly while being aggressive, you're gonna look dumb.
So I asked the question because I think for most people, they just look at stolen bases as being aggressive because that's like a very easy thing to quantify. The Yankees have 41 stolen bases, which is fourth most in baseball in the season. They also have 22 caught stealings, which is sixth most in the league. And in the first half of the season, the numbers were looking pretty good. 63 stolen bases, third in baseball, and 14 caught stealing. And then since the All-Star break, it's been a 50-50 split, basically. 8 stolen bases, 8 caught stealing. So it's just that was clear that there's for whatever reason, maybe it's just bad decisions since the All-Star, like, fine, you want to call the All-Star break as the turning point, but I look at other things, and we pulled some of these different base running metrics. You might probably classify base running metrics in the defensive metrics category, where it's like, okay, well, how much stock are we really going to put into these things? But none of the base running metrics are too favorable on the Yankees. For weighted stolen base runs, which is something that estimates the number of runs a player contributes to his team by stealing bases, the Yankees rank 11th in baseball. For ultimate base running, which is a Fangraphs metric, which kind of is the value a player adds to their team via base running on non-stolen base plays, so things like going first to third, the Yankees are 27th in baseball. And then ultimate base running, BSR, is an all-encompassing base running stat, which also includes stolen bases, taking extra bases, but also caught stealings. The Yankees rank 22nd in baseball. So I just think their quote-unquote aggressive base running has been completely overrated this year. And I feel like I've been talking about this for weeks. And how many times do I have to watch them try and double steal, get the trail runner thrown out? That kills an inning. Try and advance or just be stupid on a line drive like Andujar. Dude, it's a line drive. You go back to the bag. You do not take 2 steps to third base and then get picked off. Just stupid base running plays.
It's a line drive. You don't go back to the bag. You don't go forward. You freeze. You stop moving and you see what happens and then you react. But yes, I don't know, man. Like you're right with the first thing you said about the metrics. Very, very flimsy data, in my opinion, on a small amount of information that you can kind of shift in a way that you want. I mean, so that would also say that, if you have a low amount of attempts but high execution, that you're favored on those metrics, because it sounds like the aggressiveness actually takes away. It hurts you on those metrics because of and
if you're aggressive and you make mistakes,
but that's the whole point.
Absolutely.
It's not
that's taking runs off the board potentially.
It's not making mistakes necessarily. It's being aggressive and pushing the envelope and taking more risks. So yes, when you're taking more risks in base running, you're gonna see the downside of that too. It's part of it. It is part of it. The other thing you can do, you can say, is sit on your hands and don't do those things. Don't push the envelope. Don't push the runners. And are you saying that we would score more runs if they just sat on their ass and didn't run around? We'd be yelling, run the bases, be aggressive. We would be on the other side of this. When it doesn't work, again, it looks egregious and it looks bad, because when you're being aggressive, you're trying to take something away from the other team at the end of the day. You're trying to take advantage of a situation. And either the defense is going to look bad or you're going to look bad. But somebody's going to look bad in a situation like that. With Rizzo stealing third, off of a pitcher's move. One of those, someone's looking bad in that situation, whether it's Rizzo or the pitcher or the defense. But someone's getting exposed on a play like that. And so yeah, I understand why there's a downside of that. They're not traditional base stealers. I think if those metrics would be very different if we had a traditional base stealer if we had a Cedric Mullins on this team who was just swiping bags, you would see much different stats, because that's just what he does and he plays every day. So you're getting a much cleaner result from a stat like that. But you're getting on the Yankees, you're getting like guys like Rizzo or whomever it is out there trying to push limits and take advantage of situations. And again, you can look exposed if you are not correct on a given situation.
I mean, maybe I just sound like I want my cake and
you do
eat it too, or whatever
a little
that
bit.
Expression. But why is it too much to ask for Benintendi to not get caught trying to steal third with 0 outs in the 10th inning?
That's a dumb move. That, to me, right there, that's a good. You look at that. That was a bad read on Benintendi's part. He did not read the pitcher well at all. The pitcher duped him. I mean, that's what happened. They were obviously, they called it out. I'm sure there was a play called by the catcher where they were looking at Benintendi, thought he was going to go, and so they were able to pick him off based on the deception in the delivery, and he was caught. I mean, he was just caught with his pants down. He read it wrong. It was a bad base running move.
Yeah. So I mean, again,
I don't want him to be hesitant though. If he sees something, I want him to run.
I want them to be smart in a situation and coach their players to where you've got the fake runner on second base to start the 10th inning. You can't be stupid aggressive in that moment. You just can't, especially when it's a nothing game and runs are coveted at that point. You can't make that mistake.
I mean,
yes, there comes a time where you have to sit on your hands and be conservative in situations. If your players are not going to be smart enough to pick their spots when they're aggressive, then you as a coaching staff need to tell them you cannot run in this situation.
Yeah, and that's where I very much disagree with what you're saying, because they're not going to do that. They have these guys. If they get thrown out in an isolated, like, that was a bad read. That was a bad play by Benintendi, because he should not have gotten picked off. he should be making damn sure that that he goes to home plate. If he does not go to home plate, like there's no reason for him to be moving because he's on second base. You're right. But in a 0-0 situation, nothing has been happened. They're trying to make something happen. Try to get to third base so that you could score on a non-hit. Like, I understand why they're doing it.
You could still do that. You're on second base with no outs. You could still manufacture a run in that situation. There is, even if he steals steals third base standing up, I'm sorry, that's a stupid play in that situation.
Why? Because they haven't gotten anything going all day long. If you get to third base, if you have an opportunity and you see something and you get to third base with no outs, now you have 2 attempts to get home without a hit. And on a day that you've been shut out. On a day that you've been shut out all day long, you're trying to scrap a run across in any way. Look, I'm not defending Benintendi in that moment. Benintendi's got to be a smarter base runner and make damn sure that he's reading the correct, he's making the correct read on the pitcher. Because if that goes wrong, it's egregiously bad. It's egregiously bad. But if you can get that, and that's where the trust lies, and maybe that's him being a bad base runner in that moment, and he's got to make a better decision in that moment and make a better read in that moment. But I understand the risk. You haven't gotten shit done all day long, all day, like for an extended period of time, more than 9 innings even, and you're trying in any way to get a guy in scoring position with less than 2 outs, and you would have had 2 attempts with some bats coming up to scrap a run across, essentially steal a run. And that, I understand what they're trying to do. It just was not executed.
Yeah, well, maybe there was a green light for the team because things were going well, but now once you've seen things kind of not go well, you have to maybe it's a yellow light now for some guys.
If you're yellow, what are you doing then? What are you, stuck in the mud? You're indecision. So you're either green or you're red.
Fine, then maybe you give some guys some red lights because when you keep making mistakes and they're costing you. Like, this is not you said isolated situation. It's been a handful of times over the past 2 weeks that have cost them games. Very clearly cost them games and cost them run scoring situations.
I understand that. The other thing is that you're looking at individual players. So are you giving a red light to the team? Or are you giving, because it's not like if you're saying that to one person, you're calling out that player or giving a red light to a particular player.
I think it's a red light in situations. I think you have to understand situations, and maybe in the 10th inning of a 0-0 game with 0 outs, you give Benintendi the red light. And if it were someone else on second base, they would get the red light too. But then maybe there's green lights in other situations. And if you're up by a run or it's the middle of the game and you can afford to be a bit more aggressive and put pressure on the opposing team and then force them into making mistakes, because we did see that happen in the first half of the season and it was to their benefit. I agree. I'm acknowledging that. Then you do it. But when the team has been struggling to score runs and the aggressiveness is now not helping you score runs, is actually making it even harder for you to score runs, the coaching staff needs to step in.
You understand you're saying something that's completely contradicting what you're saying too, though, right? Like you're struggling to score runs, so you're trying to find any way to score a run. Like it's contradictory to what you're saying. But it's not
helping. If it were helping, then fine. But it's not helping. It's hurting them. They already aren't hitting with runners in scoring position.
Yes, you're looking at the result.
They're already not hitting with runners in scoring position, okay? And it's been weeks of this. It's not a small sample that we're talking about. The team has played like absolute crap for a month and a half.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
So it's a month and a half of struggling to score runs. Mm-hmm. And now what you're doing is you're taking at-bats away with runners in scoring position. So you already can't hit with runners in scoring position. Now you're just giving the team extra outs.
If Benintendi steals that base clean, are you saying anything? What are you saying at that point? Because
yes, of course, because I said it in the first half of the season when Rizzo was doing it as well. I said, yes, it worked, but I don't like it. I've said this the entire season. I've been pretty consistent on this fact.
I know, but you're also bitching about it when it's not working, and that's like,
of course,
that's easy to do.
That is my job.
But that's easy to do.
Literally why this podcast exists.
And I have to go the other side of it because I believe it. When you look at the aggressive base running, you can't just turn it off and on. If guys are not reacting in real time and using their instincts, then you're screwed. You just can't be aggressive as a team. If you are leaning on them to use their instincts and you have the trust in them to do these things, you're gonna have to take the lumps. You have to take the lumps if you have that approach. That's just the nature of the beast. You're not going to have – it's going to be a lower execution rate percentage because you're being more aggressive. It is a riskier way to move. And when you're not scoring runs, like you said, team's been struggling, you're trying to do things to get a team fired up. You're trying to get a team in different situations so that they can execute in different ways. Because guess what? The old-fashioned way of just hitting people in ain't working. It ain't working for this team right now. So they're trying to be a little bit more aggressive. And maybe that's to their point. To your point, maybe they're being a little too aggressive in some of those moments, and they could dial it back a bit. But I do not want Boone to go in there and say, red light, red light to anybody in situations like that. If you are going to be an aggressive base running team, you got to own these mistakes, and you got to learn from them and be better. But I don't want you to be less aggressive. I don't want that quick twitch muscle to go away when you see something or make you hesitant, because that's how you get thrown out every time. If they're not aggressive, if they're not feeling that instinctual moment to go on the very, very first thing that they see that they believe is the right read, then they're screwed. So yeah, it is kind of like I want my cake and eat it too, but you got to have that mentality. If you don't have that mentality and you're trying to be an aggressive team, it ain't going to work.
Do you envision a breaking point for you on this?
I mean, sure, I'm sure there'll be individual breaking points, but now now it is my job. Now it is my job to
there's been a line drawn in the sand.
Watch every single aggressive move that works out and write it down so that I can call it out.
This is why
now it is my job to prove you wrong, and I hope the guys cooperate.
This is why the podcast is both good and bad, because there's also a part of us that just wants to be right, and so you're gonna be stuck on your stance. I'm gonna be. Well,
I like the style of baseball. I like aggressive baseball.
I like it too.
So I want them to continue it, and I want it to work. But I mean, look, to your point, at a certain level, if it's not working overall, then you have to dial it back and make adjustments as a team and as a managerial.
I just gave you metrics to say it's not working. Okay,
again,
so
if you believe those metrics in a half of a season with like some horseshit numbers against other horseshit numbers, fine. You can look at that. I'm comparing horseshit numbers to horseshit numbers in a small sample size. I don't know what you want from me. I mean, like, you want me to believe in these analytics, but you give me some bullshit ones that like are just.
I'm not giving you bullshit ones. They're actually pretty consistent. All of the advanced base running metrics rank the Yankees middle of the pack to bottom of the league.
I understand that.
Okay, so if one of them ranked them near the top and the others ranked them near the bottom, then maybe you could say, okay, this is inconsistent. Sort of an example being the defensive metrics on IKF, right? Where it's like StatCast was not favorable on him, but Fangraphs was, or maybe it was the other way around. So maybe it's like, okay, well, I'm going to throw these out because they're contradicting one another, and I'm going to use my eyes to see what they tell me. But when my eyes tell me the Yankees are making too many outs on the bases, and then I go to the nerd stats, and they also say the Yankees have not been a good base running team, what am I to believe?
Can we look at, Logan, for one, when we're looking at the sample size here, are we seeing teams like the Yankees who are being more aggressive? And I don't know how you even look around baseball and say, oh, this team's more aggressive, that team's more aggressive. Maybe attempts or like the total amount, I don't know. But are those teams getting hurt by these stats? I would venture to say that they are if you're on the more aggressive side, because you're going to see more of the downside because it is a riskier play. And that's what I'm saying, that the numbers probably don't call out. Logan, you had something to say?
Yeah, so, I mean, looking at the stats when I was pulling all the numbers, I know that in most of these, where the Yankees ranked, they ranked with some of the not as good teams. They didn't rank up there with the Astros and the Mets. There was one, but that they ranked up with the Mets. But, you know, looking at it, you know, the weighted stolen base runs, which is basically just stolen bases, but they were third in baseball until the All-Star break. And now, since then, they've been the worst in baseball.
Okay.
And I think I think that's shown in the they had 63 stolen bases before the All-Star break with 14 caught stealings, which was 20th least in baseball, so kind of middle of the pack, to 8 stolen bases, which is average, middle, but 8 caught stealings. So they definitely, something has changed. This isn't just, I kind of walk a fine line in between both of you in the fact that I like they being more aggressive. I agree with you, Scott, but last year they played slow pitch softball. They just went base to base to base, and it didn't work.
No,
I mean, you heard Luke Voigt calling them slow donkeys.
Yes, it was terrible.
But
that's not what I want either. Okay.
No, I know.
So we're looking at those stats when you're aggressive and it worked, they're favorable to you. But when it's not working as many times, and that's the nature of being aggressive on the base path. Like, you're going to have the downside of it. So I think we're seeing, as you mentioned, the downside of it, because recently they have not been good. No doubt about it. They need to clean it up. I'm not saying they need to be, but I don't want them to be less aggressive. I want them to make smarter decisions and be.
Yes, exactly.
Still
That's the
be
point.
aggressive.
Smarter decisions. Be smart and aggressive. Like, they don't. Okay. Why is it like, oh, this team has to go from being slow donkeys on the base path where they're just station to station to just running blindly into outs? Like, why are those the two ends of the spectrum here? Where's the middle ground? Where is the aggressive but smart base running? I don't know why it's too much to ask for a professional baseball team with some of the best players on the planet to just do that.
Because I know we're spending a lot of time on this freaking topic, but the reason is because when you're being aggressive in those moments, outside of a straight stolen base, right? That's just mano-y-mano essentially. But outside of that, someone is getting exposed. Someone is getting exposed. And guess what? The other side that's getting exposed are also professional baseball players and also playing professional defense. So if you have those guys not being, someone's not going to execute in that given moment. And recently, it has not been working out for the New York Yankees. They have not been making the right reads. They have been put in situations where the defense is taking advantage of that because they are just not making smart reads on the base path. First half of the year, you could go the other way. You didn't like it because it was like barely working, kind of working, but that's what aggressive base running feels like. It feels wrong, but when it works, you're like, yes, it's amazing because I feel like I just got one up on the other team. Like, they're idiots. Like, I can't believe they fell for that. But when it doesn't work, you look like, oh my gosh, we're idiots. What are we doing? So I see both sides, but that is the nature of being aggressive.
Last thing on this topic, Logan, can you pull up that leaderboard that you were referencing for the individual player base running stats and how the Yankees, who was the best base runners on the team versus who were below average?
Yeah, so I have it right here. That weighted stolen base is, I think, pretty good, and also the UBR is pretty good, and they seem to kind of mirror each other in similar ways. So according to weighted stolen base, like, Judge has a 1.3, which is good, and Judge has been successful until that caught stealing in Seattle on, I believe it was Wednesday. No, it was Tuesday. IKF, he grades out as a good base runner, and then after that, Aaron Hicks is just a bit above average, which me and Andrew were talking before the show. That feels right. I mean, I don't think Aaron Hicks has done anything too bad, but then Donaldson, Rizzo, Glaber, and LeMahieu all grade out poorly.
And that's because
who's the surprising one there for you, Scott?
Who's the surprise?
It's Rizzo, right? Rizzo being grading out poorly is surprising.
No, it's not surprising because he's not going to go
not
first.
Surprising?
No, because some of the other sides of this metric, going first to third, he's doing it in moments where he's trying to get one up. Like, that is very clear. Rizzo actually is the reason why you hate this stat, because it doesn't look like the guy's running in quicksand. He should not be doing these things. He's trying to take advantage of something that he sees in front of him. So he is bucking the system.
But I thought
you want to put a little bit less
Rizzo,
aggressive on Rizzo? Fine. You want to put a little less aggressive on LeMahieu? Fine. Those guys probably shouldn't be as aggressive. I want IKF to be aggressive. I want Hicks to be aggressive. I want Judge to be aggressive. I want everybody at the top of that lineup minus LeMahieu to be aggressive. If you have wheels, I want you to be aggressive and push the limits. If you're a quote slow donkey, or if you're carrying extra baggage, Rizzo's just trying to be smarter than everybody and take it. That's what he is. That's why he takes advantage of those situations.
That's what I thought Rizzo was. I thought Rizzo was a good base runner in the sense that he could read balls off the bats. He would get good jumps, so he could go first or third, even though he's never going to win a foot race against anyone. That's what, in my mind, is more valuable on the base paths than just blazing speed stealing bags, okay? Like, that's the reason why Brett Gardner was so frustrating for so long. He was faster than anyone on the team, but he couldn't steal a bag for his life because he could never get a good jump on a pitcher. But there were other things he could do well, like score from first on a double down the line. Okay, and there were guys on the Yankees for years who were never the fastest base runners, but when there was a bloop, they knew it was going to be a bloop and fall in, and they would go first to third. And that is what is going to provide you more value at the end of the day than stealing an extra bag.
Here is why these numbers, again, don't totally check out for me. Rizzo being bad on there, I understand that. Probably a very small sample size. And when he gets thrown out, it's egregious, especially in the numbers. When you're looking at IKF, I bet if you polled a lot of Yankee fans, one of the more frustrating base runners that they would probably qualify would be IKF. I bet they would say that because of the way he got picked off in a big moment. He got thrown out going to second base, trying to like, that looks dumb in the moment when you're seeing it. He's thrown out by a mile. Anytime you get thrown out by a mile, it looks terrible. So, but he's graded as one of the better. Why? Because he's leading the team in stolen bases, right? Logan, I think he was last time I looked, and he is the base runner he's the base stealer on this team. So he's going to be putting more of those situations.
But he also does other things on the bases than other stealing bases. You're right. He has made egregious errors. It's kind of the same way for him in the field. He makes routine plays challenging and will boot them, and that looks really bad, but then he makes a lot of other plays, a lot of tough plays. On the bases, he makes a lot of good plays that kind of just go under the radar unnoticed. But then you notice him getting picked off because it's impossible not to notice him getting picked off. Same with Rizzo.
How do you not identify and notice when he's doing something that he shouldn't be doing, like stealing a bag or running first to third in quicksand? So I'm just telling you, when you see the aggressiveness in certain players, it becomes a larger head case for our fans because it doesn't look right. And that's hard to swallow. We got to move forward past the base running thing.
Spent so much time on this. The Cole Castillo pitchers duel was a playoff-like atmosphere, and even Mariners were talking about how we haven't been to the playoffs in a while, but this felt like what we think the playoffs would feel like. Our fan base is starving for it. Cole was excellent. It was a bounce-back start after his debacle against Seattle. 109 pitches in 7 innings, and I thought he threw some really nice breaking balls and changeups late in his outing to get some strikeouts. But Castillo was just a little bit better. And this was his home debut, 110 pitches over 8 scoreless innings in his debut for the Mariners at home.
He looked really good.
Because he's a good pitcher.
He looked really good. The ball was popping out of his hand. One thing I was noticing, and my buddy Jim was texting me about this too, is his delivery, his leg kick. When he did, it does look like a balk. It did look like a balk when he threw to second. He's flirting the line. There's no doubt. Obviously, they didn't see it as that, but he's got one of those very deceptive deliveries towards home plate, and he's tough to get a read on. And the ball just pops out of his hand. Like, he does look good, and he looked composed as all hell. That's what I didn't like. I didn't like how composed he looked, and he looks like a guy that's not going to be fun to face.
Yeah. So,
and Cole looked good too. To his credit,
he did.
To his credit, he looked good. He definitely nutted up for that moment for that pitching duel, and pitched very well. So, I know we crushed him.
The pitching staff was excellent.
The pitching staff was excellent.
I'm not crushing him.
No, I'm saying we've crushed him in the past for not being that guy. Well, he did go toe to toe with another team's ace and certainly lived up to the bill. Logan?
Yeah, the thing that annoyed me the most about the Yankees offense against Castillo was not that they didn't hit him really, because I understand that, and I love that the pitching staff matched him, and I think that without Carpenter there, this is going to be a bigger issue. Yeah. But they weren't working up his pitch count at all. I mean, he went 8 innings. I mean, the way to win that game is you got to work the count and get him out of the game as soon as possible. He had a low pitch count the entire game, and nobody was seeing a ton of pitches. And to me, that was like, come on, like, just like work something. Like, even if you're not getting on base, like, work it a little bit.
A guy like him too is you could go two different ways, right? You're trying to be aggressive because you're trying to jump on him when he's in the strike zone, because if you allow him to get ahead in the count, a guy like Castillo, you're in trouble as a hitter in that at bat. So that's one of those situations where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're trying to be aggressive and jump on him in the strike zone when he's there and he's going to be there. But at the same time, if you do not execute on that and you're running into a team that is not executing as a whole team, you're going to get into the exact situation you were talking about. He's allowed to cruise into the 8th inning because his pitch count is very manageable. So I do see both sides of that. And as a Yankees team, we've been very used to them working the count, making sure that they're getting into those favorable counts for them to do damage, and they just weren't able to do that against him.
Well, you know what's actually a little bit concerning is that is the third time that they faced Castillo since the Cincinnati series when he was still with the Reds in the middle of July. So 3 times in basically call it 4 weeks that they've seen this guy, and he actually got better against them in the most recent start.
Yeah, not a great thing. And real quick, IKF 15 stolen bases, tied for the lead with the Yankees. Harrison Bader, 15 stolen bases. Who's in a walking boot.
Well, something tells me Harrison Bader's not going to be stealing more bases for the rest of the year than IKF.
Yeah, I mean, if he's in a boot, if he's coming back from a boot and he's back, like he better be. That means he's healthy.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, let's talk about the Carpenter injury. That sucks. Fractured foot, fouling a ball off of his left foot, so his back foot. Miguel Andujar was called up. Carpenter, I think the X-rays weren't devastating. The results of the X-rays, I saw a report that it wasn't as bad as it could be, so he thinks he'll be back this year.
It came back as favorable as you could have come back if you see a fracture or a break like that. It was a clean break, so in theory, clean breaks can heal quicker than an ugly one. You know, it's a clean break. It's not, broken in multiple places or shattered or whatever. You're looking at something that in theory could be stabilized and then heal. I think they had 6 to 8 weeks. So he's hopefully going to be back towards, the latter half of the regular season and be healthy for the playoffs. Like, that was devastating. It was devastating the way you saw it happen, because you knew it was something. Carpenter does not react that way unless something is up. Like, this guy is an old school dude in the sense that, like, you're not going to see much emotional reaction out of him unless there's either something very good or something very bad. And you could tell immediately that it was something concerning. So it's just a goddamn shame, because I know all of us have been just really had so much fun watching him play and come back and make this run. So I'm really hopeful that he's able to get back for the playoffs, because that is something I desperately want to see. I want to see Matt Carpenter in a Yankee uniform perform in the playoffs. So I really do hope he can get back. And that guy, he's going to do everything he possibly can to get back. Hopefully we're setting up like a Kirk Gibson moment here.
What a world we live in. If I had told you on April 15th that a devastating Yankee injury on August 9th is going to be losing Matt Carpenter, you'd be like, what? First of all, what year is it?
Right.
What alternate reality have we entered?
Yeah.
What is going on here?
Yeah, no, it makes no sense. That's the beautiful thing about a season, right? You look at, you see what we were all setting up for, and we're all part of the baseball world, and we're all just sitting here watching it. Whatever happens. And yeah, Matt Carpenter being a New York Yankee and performing in the way he did was wild. But now my expectations are, I want to see Matt Carpenter in the playoffs, because that guy's nails, and I want to see him in a situation against the Astros and whooping their ass. That's what I want to see.
Do you want to see the Mariners in the playoffs?
I don't care who I play in the playoffs. Sure, but it's going to be paid. Well, yes. Yeah. Give me anybody. I want to beat the Astros.
Seawald could have given them a little bit of bulletin board material. He said, we don't have Aaron Judge on our team. We don't have a $35 million pitcher, but we have 26 guys that are really good, and all have a key part of this team, were his comments after the series.
It's a fact. So is
it bulletin board material, or is it just like, yep, he's correct? Yep.
I mean, all he was doing was observing, making observations. I think at that point, I mean, you could argue that. I mean, you definitely have some some big name guys on that team. There's no doubt that, but yeah, just because a guy hasn't hit the level where he's getting paid yet and he's still in arbitration doesn't mean he's not the same guy.
The we don't have Aaron Judge on our team is not a dig. It's like, no, we don't have the best player in the league on our team.
No, they don't.
That's correct. But we don't have a $35 million pitcher is a little bit of a dig.
I hope Garrett Cole sees that as a dig. I hope Garrett Cole takes that personally. I do. I hope.
Because he didn't say we don't have Garrett Cole on our team. He said we don't have a $35 million pitcher.
They do. He just hasn't been paid
have
that yet.
A pitch. Yeah, they do have a pitcher who is worth that and was able to match Garrett Cole, actually pitch one inning better than Garrett Cole.
They have a guy that will get paid Garrett Cole like money. There's no doubt. He just hasn't gotten to that point yet. Anyway, whatever it is, I hope that Garrett Cole sees that as a slight. I hope that Garrett Cole takes that very personally and can manifest that in whatever the hell he does and be aggressive and be that guy with a chip on his shoulder because someone made fun of him because of his $35 million contract. I hope that he can take that very, very personally and like an attack on his family. Let's now live it. Okay. Live it.
Well, Paul Sewell was going to say, well, we don't have a Kermit the Frog pitcher on our team,
right.
but he decided to go with the 30.
He might as well have said that, though. Might as well have said that. I think that's what he meant.
Anything else you want to touch on from the Seattle series? I mean, the schedule for the Yankees is not getting any easier. 3 at Boston. You're going to the game over the weekend, and they've got Tampa, Toronto, and the Mets before heading back out to the West Coast. So 15 and 19 since July 1st. They've scored 2 runs or fewer 7 times in that span. The offense has been struggling. They need to get Stanton back, and the schedule is not going to get any easier over the next couple of weeks.
No, I mean, whether Boston is a good team or a bad team, it's still going into Fenway. It's not easy to do that, and we all know how those games go. So even though they are a last place team and very much struggling, and Chris Sale's riding bikes while trying to come back from injuries and just getting – that guy's a train wreck, dude. He's a friggin' train wreck. Like, what a disaster he is in so many ways. But yeah, they're not a good baseball team, but it doesn't matter because Rafael Devers is on that team and who knows what can happen. We'll see when Benintendi gets back in there. I'm excited to go up there. I'm going up to Boston, my brother's bachelor party, taking over the city for a weekend and catching that game on Saturday. So I'm excited to be there and give them all the business.
Have you been to Fenway for a Yankee Red Sox game before?
Yes, I have.
It's a really fun atmosphere. Like if anyone listening has never been to Fenway Park, I highly recommend going. It's one of my favorite stadiums in the league. Just it's such a cool vibe around the stadium. I find it fun to wear Yankees gear and get jawed at. Like
you don't even get jawed at. That's the thing. Like it's actually
you get a little bit.
I
mean, not as much as you used to.
I
would walk in there as a 12-year-old and have grown men yelling at me.
Yes, okay? Back then.
Like this was pre-2004.
Correct. Okay, pre-2004, totally different story. Today, soft. It's soft, very soft, like way softer than Yankee Stadium. Not even close. Not even close. You're still getting asshole chants at Yankee Stadium. You're still getting, ridiculed at Yankee Stadium, no matter who you are. It doesn't even need to be a Yankees Red Sox series. You walk in there with a Twins jersey on, you go into the outfield seats, and you're getting an asshole chant. But the Fenway, soft. Nobody says shit to me. I've told this story when I was up there when Kemp was born. I used to walk past. I used to wear Yankees gear every single day just to get a reaction. I'm literally fishing for a reaction from people. I'm being that guy. And multiple times I had walked back to my apartment and gone against the grain, gone against the traffic of people coming out of Fenway Park. When the game is over, I've gone against the sea. So it's me going against a current of Red Sox fans wearing Yankees things. Nobody says a word, not one word. And I'm like, what is happening here? I'm ready. I got the one-liners ready in my head to fire back, but no one's saying shit. I was very disappointed. And then, going to a game, like nobody says everybody's very nice. I think it's gotten bougie. I think it's gotten too bougie in Fenway.
Well, they're fat and happy up there. They've won a lot.
There's not enough seats there, so you can't let everybody in. It's not the same atmosphere. They've definitely gotten soft. So I'm not,
anyway.
Come to the Bronx and it's a different story.
I mean, then just use it as like a feel-good series for the Yankees, right? Like beat up on a last-place team. Beating the Red Sox is always going to feel good before you go home and the schedule gets tough again because the team's just not been playing well. And, there's starting to get some concern that if the team does not have a significant stretch going into October reminiscent of the first few months of the season, then what is this team really going to be in the playoffs? Like, what are we going to get? Is it going to be a first-round exit? Because that's what they're trending like, and that's what none of us thought after the first 3 months of this season. So I just want to see them start
when everybody
to get
gets healthy,
something like that.
And you're seeing this team at, full strength as well. Again, we may be looking back at this and be like, okay, we were overreacting, but not really, because you're in the moment. You have to react to what this is, and they're not playing well. We're lucky that Toronto also losing games when we are, because the lead in the division, which we all gotta be looking at that, right? It's 10 games right now. Baltimore is is coming up fast, which is a wild situation to watch. They are a game and a half out of a wild card situation. But when the Yankees have to take care of Boston. They have to take care of business against Boston, no matter where it is. It's a big series for them to absolutely right the ship. And it's not an easy place to do that, whether they are the last place team or not. Again, it's a tough place to do that, because when they go home and they have Tampa and then Toronto, these guys are going to be coming at you. And I know Tampa's not playing well, but Toronto coming in at 10 games out, they know what they have to do at that point. There's a lot of pressure on them, I think, to make a move. So it's going to be a tough homestand.
All right, that'll wrap it up for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. Scott and I are going to be recording after the final Jeter episode at some point. I know Scott's going to a bachelor party, so
yeah, hopefully tomorrow. We'll see if it comes out tomorrow. I'm not sure. No promises, to be honest. But I'm going to attempt. I'm taking my gear.
We will have a final Jeter episode, though. I'm very much looking forward to that final episode. The documentary's been excellent. And then we will record Monday after the Red Sox series. We will talk to you guys then.